Today we're going to be talking about the Prince of the Gluttony Ring and how I believe they rule over their people with food, alcohol, and the Hellhound Adoption Agency, where Blitz actually adopted Luna. This is the latest in my series on how Hell is ruled by its leaders. Click up here in the corner or use the link in the pinned comment down below for a playlist of the series so far. And don't forget to hit the subscribe button so you don't miss the upcoming rings that we talk about. The Gluttony Ring is the third ring of Hell, and according to the Peter Binsfeld classification of demons, is ruled over by Beelzebub. Beelzebub makes sense as the third prince of Hell, as after Satan and Lucifer, Beelzebub is the name most associated with the title of the devil. In many schools of thought, the three are considered the same character, three different facets of the same entity, and are even used to represent a sort of unholy trinity to counter the Catholic Holy Trinity. Beelzebub has not been shown in the series yet, but Moxie refers to Beelze as a she in his song in episode 7, indicating that she may be a princess instead of a prince, though I imagine they are still referred to as the princes collectively. Most of what we do know about the Gluttony Ring comes from early clips of the originally planned episode 8 of season 1, as well as its promotional materials. This episode was meant to serve as a follow-up to episode 7, and I believe would have helped pave the way for the story of season 2, episode 1, which takes place on the same night as episode 7. In previews, we see that it has a mostly yellow sky, and that the whole area Blitz and Luna are visiting is covered in beehive architecture. The name Beelzebub refers to a demon who is most often depicted as a fly in real life, the name translating into Lord of the Flies. But I think making her a bee-based demon is a fun choice that gives the Gluttony Ring its own distinct style. The goal of each prince is to exploit the people in a way that isn't just profitable, but in a way that caters to that prince's specific sin. Most of us know gluttony to simply mean overeating, but in Helluva Boss it appears to be more defined as a decadence that comes as either a detriment to oneself or to others. As such, gluttony doesn't mean that Beelzebub just wants to eat all day, nor does it extend to just overindulging in vices like alcohol. It's not enough that Beelzebub can eat and drink all day, they would also want enough servants so that they can spend as much time as possible doing it than they normally would, creating a detriment not just to their own health by doing it, but to the lives of others by making them serve this purpose. Catering to this idea of gluttony is the business model that Beelzebub would create in their ring, one that I believe would end up more or less enslaving the Hellhounds in a never-ending cycle of abuse. As far as food goes, Beelzebub seems to run a lot of food-based enterprises, most notable being Bees Eats, an app on Blitz's phone similar to Grubhub or DoorDash. While some fine dining may exist on it, the majority of options are likely demonically disgusting fast food choices. While Hellhounds are so far shown to be the primary species of the Gluttony Ring, a lot of the princes appear to have a lower species modeled after them, the way that imps seem to resemble Satan on the workout app, or that succubus share the same lustful theme as Asmodeus, despite looking quite different. While we haven't seen them yet, I believe there may be insect-based demons native to this ring, particularly bee-themed demons, who all work as part of Beelzebub's gluttony business empire. They would be able to create honey-based fast food, and with the power of flight, perhaps be able to deliver it all over Hell at fast food delivery service speeds. This honey I believe to also be the basis of what Blitz calls Beelze-Juice, a demonic alcoholic beverage that Veronica enjoys so much she had to go to rehab for a short while because of it. Being made by Beelzebub, it is likely a mead which is made from honey, something that appears to be flowing freely at the Hellhound party that we see. Beelze-Juice is a powerfully intoxicating beverage for demons, but one that turns earthly animals into giant monsters when they come into contact with it. Between Bees Eats and Beelze-Juice, Beelzebub would not just have the Gluttony Ring under much of her control, but would have managed to enslave a lot of other rings through addiction to her cheap and easily accessible food and mead that the rest of Hell exists pretty much just to work to eat. But to enjoy this as much as possible, she would want servants too, and she would want to create a system where other people could have these servants as well. And I think that is why Beelze started the Hellhound Adoption Agency. Hellhounds, while sentient, are a lot more animalistic than the other species of Hell appear to be so far, and if Luna is any indication, it looks like they breed with a frequency more similar to real-life dogs, which can include a litter a year with between 2 and 20 pups. Being a lower class in Hell, naturally having more kids than the other species would mean even more financial burden than those other species have, who are already more financially well off. This would lead to an overpopulation and poverty issue in the Hellhound community. Now, the best way to enslave your people is to convince them that they are not your slaves, of course, so Beelzebub had to create a way to sell Hellhounds as servants, and would use their own overpopulation issues against them to achieve this. In episode 7 of Helluva Boss, we saw a photo of Blitz holding up Luna's adoption contract on his phone. The contract seems to be signed with the letters B-E-L, which I assume to be Belphegor, the Prince of the Sloth Ring. In the recent monthly Q&A, however, Vivziepop and series writer Adam Nalen confirmed that it was actually meant to spell B-E-E, short for Beelzebub, and the second E was just accidentally made too large. This helped confirm that Beelzebub herself seems to rule over the Hellhound adoptions as a sort of industry. Between the crazy Hellhound party in the 2022 trailer and the Hellhound Adoption Foundation, Gluttony seems like an almost gluttonous paradise for wild dogs, but I think Beelzebub has set up a very sinister cycle of abuse if we examine it more closely. Hellhounds are treated largely as a servant class in Hell. While Tex technically works for Verosika and is presumably free to leave, she treats him more like property or a pet than an employee. Blitz treats Luna better than most people treat Hellhounds, trying to regard her as a daughter, but most people look at them and see her as just his Hellhound, not worthy of having her name mentioned, as we saw in episode 5. I imagine this stems from the Hellhound Adoption Foundation itself, which gives people the opportunity to adopt a Hellhound at a young age and raise them as a servant or pet. Once an adult, these Hellhounds would legally be able to leave, but would have to weigh their work opportunities versus whatever their adoptive family had planned for them, which was likely the sort of role of a servant who masquerades as your pet that you adopted into the family. The lady working at the Hellhound Adoption Foundation from the flashback in episode 2 even indicates that people like Blitz mostly come in to adopt Hellhounds to work for them, with some even being presented as better for rough work. Because of their different breeds and styles within the species, they would become a bit of a luxury in the eyes of elites, with unique breeds to show off as your servant or pet, making it an even greater status symbol. And this, I think, is why Hellhounds, despite being considered one of the lowest species in Hell, are having such extravagant parties in the Gluttony Ring, as it's at these parties that many Hellhounds undoubtedly end up getting pregnant. Having little to no money of their own, they end up giving up their pups for adoption, perpetuating the same cycle of abuse that they came from. Despite being a servant class, they are given easy and cheap access to decadent parties that are designed to just get as many of them in a room together at the same time to have them procreate, so their children can end up being enslaved under the guise of adoption as well. All of this is for the profit of Beelzebub, who gets to look like she is generously creating this party space for Hellhounds to have as their own escape from their miserable lives, while also taking their children and selling them back to other demons for a profit. In addition to being the princess of the Gluttony Ring, I think it is also possible that Beelzebub may be a king of the Ars Goetia, the same way that Asmodeus is a king in the Ars Goetia, but also the prince of the Lust Ring. Beelzebub's name means Lord of the Flies, as I said before, and was a name used in the Bible to insult the gods of other nations in the area, who despite their different names would often go by Baal or Baal as a title meaning Lord. These names themselves also became used to reference other demons throughout history, including Baal as the first mentioned king of the Ars Goetia. With Beelzebub being derived from Baal itself, I think it's possible that they may be one character here in Helluva, the same way Asmodeus is between his Ars Goetia and Peter Binsfield interpretations. However, depictions of Baal and Baal can be distinct from Beelzebub, with there even being demonologies where Beelzebub and Baal are listed as two separate entities, despite both being derived from the same source. Baal in the Ars Goetia is depicted as a demon with 3 heads, one human, one cat, and one frog, a far cry from Beelzebub, who is depicted as a fly, and perhaps Beelze from the show, who as we discussed is being set up to have a bee theme. While Beelze could end up being a prince of the Gluttony Ring as well as a king of the Ars Goetia, I don't imagine that will actually be the case so far. It is a fun possibility, but not one we have any evidence of within the show. It's just a fun possible connection similar to how Asmodeus has a place in both classifications that I thought would be fun to explore in a video. But don't get your hopes up on that one. What do you guys think, though? Let me know your thoughts in the comments down below, and don't forget to hit that subscribe button so you don't miss our upcoming videos on the Prince of the Greed Ring, the Lust Ring, the Envy Ring, the Sloth Ring, as we circle back around to how Lucifer rules over Hell as a whole. Get early access to these and more by signing up with the join button next to the subscribe button down below. See you guys next time.